Awesome. Welcome back to the Success Blueprint. Happy to have you back. Thank you for listening and for coming back for some of the things that we've learned over the last little bit, and some of the things that we've seen over the last little bit is doing the podcast and talking to some amazing people that have taught us, which is kind of the most fun part, I think, is just learning from these people who have done it, who have done well in whatever field they're in, and have such a different perspective on just life and different things. Some of the things that are pretty interesting as far as going on relationships. I mean, we've talked about everything, right? I mean, basically the physical side, relationship side, social, a little bit, obviously mostly on business. But it's been pretty interesting to hear some of the different perspectives of some people that are a lot smarter than me.
Yeah, myself.
So
for sure.
It's good.
What's one thing that's awesome about this podcast is doing it. I had this anxiety of like, this is going to be just a drag, right? Like before we had anybody on, and I can honestly say that as far as work goes, this is the day I look forward to every single month. And there's people who come on who I don't know very well. There's people who come on that I know really well, and every single time I'm blown away, or I'm walking away with things that I'm fulfilled, that I'm like, I've never heard this perspective, or I've never had this, high caliber conversation with this type of person in a long, long time. And so I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I think the best part for us, selfishly, it's helped me in a lot of aspects as well. Just going through it. I think originally we thought, well, yeah, this will be great. And then, it'll help out our agents, and it'll help out this, and can kind of drive business. And it's like, well, that's kind of if that happens, great. But this is really, it's like, okay, how can I self-develop a little bit more and become a little bit better and do things better, because I'm lacking in so many ways and I want to improve, right?
Well, and I guess I would take this time to just let everybody know that I appreciate them listening. I definitely appreciate our guests coming on. And so if there's any other guests or anybody like that you're like, man, this would be pretty good, I'd love to come on.
Maybe we switch it up a little bit. Maybe we talk a little bit more about, we've talked, the part one of this was more just kind of success in the business and agents and things like that. Maybe we switch it up to clientele, to what's, why purchase, why invest, is now a good time. Maybe what we're seeing kind of overall, not specific numbers, but just overall in the market, and kind of what we're seeing right now leading into the last half of 2026.
So I have a strong opinion about this. I think being able to pivot and being able to learn how to change directions is about the biggest skill that you can learn in real estate. And I've learned that, and I believe that because, not going into too much, but in this economy, right? We're in a war. The interest rates are higher than they've been. There's uncertainty. There's this. There's that. There's whatever it may be, right? But I would say that in the last uncertainty, I got my license. It just came back, and I got it at the beginning of 2006. Okay. Right, so 20 years plus, right? And the one thing is I remember when the economy dumped, and it sucked. I mean, I woke up, I had the biggest deal I had. It was, I was double siding it, and so I'm 22 years old, right? It's actually before that. It was like 21, 22. And anyway, I'm excited about this deal. It's $1.4 million, and I'm double ending it. And so back then, I'm going to make $75,000. My wife's pregnant with our first kid. We have not very much money. So this money is going to help, right? And the day before close, because it's during the chaos of '08, and I get a call, and they're like, "Hey, our lender, they went out of business. The bank is gone." And I'm like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "Well, let's go to another one." Well, back then,
Yeah, that was everything.
no one wanted to finance you. It wasn't like, "Oh, this one didn't work. Well, let's get you over to this."
Was that
lender.
like 2009, 2010 timeframe?
Yeah, it was like '08, '09, like when
So
shit
right
was
after.
really hitting the fan, you know? And no birds were around. Like it was a weird deal, you know? And so anyway, it took a lot longer and we kind of pieced it together and it ended up working. But I mean, it was a weird time. Like homeowner or buyers would call and be like, "So my bank's no longer around." So like it was crazy. And so anyways, we talk about this kind of stuff and you know, I feel like the best time to buy, I only bring that up because it was crazy. It was chaotic. It was a zoo, you know? And I bring that up because it was very uncertain, but I also started just buying distressed properties, or I started just buying these things, and everyone else was in survival mode, and I was too, but I just kept thinking like, it'd be like going into Foot Locker and everything was 80% off. Like I just started buying as much stuff as I could possibly buy, and I was financing it to the nines, and you know, people are like, "Well, what happens if it doesn't work?" And I'm like, worst case scenario is the bank doesn't get their money, and I bought it at, you know, like 80% off. Like it was pretty cheap. So my question to you is, should you buy or should you not? If you think it's a bad time, you should go and look for the silver lining and find the deals. There's people who want to sell. If you think it's a time that it's going to rebound back, when it rebounds back, it's going up. Everything's going up. And so don't wait for the rebound. Buy now and make choices down the road, whether it's a refinance or whether you sell or, you know, whatever it may be. But I definitely think there's always opportunities in down markets. There's just always is. You know, we hear it in stocks, you know, like when's the best time to buy? Like people should be buying like crazy because when they come back, and historically they always do, then that's when you make your return. You always make it on the buy. And so I think the buy is a huge thing. I also think, and you're really good on this subject, but just on inflation going up, whatever happens is like, we know that nothing's going to come back down lower, you know, than what it is. If it does, we're in a lot worse situation than what we want to admit. And so anyway, that's my thought of that.
Over time, right? I mean, I think people have to look at it as real estate isn't necessarily a short-term thing, right? I mean, yeah, there's flips and things like that can be short-term on the right purchase and that. But for the most part, if you're buying, especially if it's your own home and it's for your own enjoyment, make sure it's something you want and where you want to live and the location you want to be, and jump into it. There's no reason to wait.
And over time.
And over time, it's going to grow every time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always been bumps. There's always been like 3 or 4 or 5 year little bumps in the dip, as you see, you know, starting back since they started keeping records of it to now. But obviously, it's grown substantially, right? And you always hear people say, "Oh, I wish I would have bought then. I wish I would have bought then." But okay, when's the next best time, right?
Now.
I mean, now. The last few years, we have had a little bit of a lull. We had a small dip. It hasn't been big, but it has been a small dip. But every indication is showing that things are going to improve over the next few years. So
it always makes up for it.
Yep, it will. And what's nice about this one is that it didn't drop off the face of the earth. I mean, we weren't going, I mean, that curve went up exponentially through COVID, right? I mean, it was insane what prices did here and a lot of places in the country. They went up so rapidly. And a lot of times when that happens, and then interest rates, of course, went up dramatically. They went from mid to upper twos to 8
Right.
in the matter of 6 months?
Yeah.
And so when that happens, you'd almost expect that to drop way back down to where it was. It didn't. It dropped down a little bit, but it didn't come anywhere near where it was before that started. And so we're kind of lucky in that fact. It's two ways to look at it. If it dropped way down, then we'd probably already be up on the upscale, but we'd be in the same position we were, right? Because we dropped down slightly, but then we've been kind of like level. We've been level for a few years now, and it hasn't really gone much. And so, but that will start to increase again. So we see that trend line, and we'll hit that trend line.
So I have some friends in the car business, right?
Yeah.
And used cars, I mean, it's definitely different. But like if you wanted to get a new Chevy every year, it's never cheaper. It's never cheaper year after year. It may play out a little bit, but if you're like, oh man, my dad bought a new Ford for $25,000, and now they're 80. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait until it comes back down to like when they start making them again for 60. It isn't gonna happen, and so then that tells me that it's just like it always is going to creep up. And like what you said, it's going to lull, but if you can hold on to that for 10 years, you're going to be, there was a lot of people like come in and I'm like, hey, I can't sell this. Like there's just, you don't have enough equity.
Yeah.
Best thing is just hold on to it as long as you can.
Yep.
Or you can do a short sell, and then the short sell didn't get approved. Well, fast forward 10 years, now all of a sudden they sell it and they have 30, 40 grand of equity.
Yeah, it's true.
And so it's like I've never seen it, we've seen foreclosures, we've seen short sales, we've seen people try to sell, and you fast forward 5, 10 years, and then all of a sudden they have all this equity in it.
Yeah.
And so I still feel like it's always going to be a solid, and I always feel like if you're going to wait, it's going to go up. And then if interest rates drop, they're going to go up even more.
Yeah.
And so I would you're not going to get maybe the dream house that you were hoping to get in 19. However, every year you're waiting, it's going up 3%, 4%. If it stalls, it still hasn't came down.
Yeah, it's true.
And so
I think and every situation is so different, right? Some people you have to move. I mean, they don't have a choice because they're being relocated for a job or something like that, and they need to sell because they can't get into the next place without some of the equity and things like that. But so I think that's why it's so important to just talk to an agent that knows what they're doing. Talk to an agent, and that way it's, if anything else, it's a sounding board, right? You can get kind of a little bit more of the market, what's going on in the market, those kind of things, just so you can make a better educated decision. It's not the agent's decision, it's your decision.
Right.
But at the same time, when you've talked to any time you're doing something important as buying or selling a property, then when you talk to somebody who's doing it every day and in it every day, you're going to get a little bit different perspective than what you have personally. And so, I mean, there's different things out there, AI and things like that can help answer some of the things, but they still don't know the day-to-day of that specific market. It's still a little bit different. And they don't have all the information. AI doesn't have the information. It's pulling from public sources that doesn't always have, sold prices and things like that, and isn't knowing the current exact trends and things like that. So we're still a little bit away from kind of AI taking that over, right? So I think it's so important to sound off and to just open up a little bit to somebody who's in it every day so that you can get that perspective so that you can make that good decision for you and your family.
So I have like the shotgun part to all of this of just multiple stuff. So I definitely think when you're buying a home, a lot of people say renting, right? Dave Ramsey's like, hey, it's not necessarily. So I tell everyone, Jason, if you're going to buy a home, if you're 25 years old, don't buy a home above your means. Don't buy a home bigger than what you and your little family needs. You need to buy something that's, if you have one kid, buy a 3-bedroom home, buy something in town, buy something nice, buy something, that you're going to be happy in. You don't need to go buy a 6-bedroom house, right? Because I feel like we have these living musts, necessities that we have to have. We have to have food. We have to have shelter. So when people are like, well, your home is not a asset, it's a liability. And I disagree with that because, like Dave Ramsey says, your home is the controlling factor of, of what you're going to live in and the price that you're going to live in. And that's your biggest expense you should have every single month is the home that you live in, right? Is that mortgage. And so that being said, I also think that when you purchase real estate, it's also going to be one of your biggest assets or your biggest investments that you're going to make. And so I have a theory, and I've seen it before, and I love it, is making money takes skill. So whatever occupation you're in, making money makes skill. Keeping money is a discipline, and then investing money is knowledge. And so when you're buying a home, I like what you're saying. I do think you got to have some knowledge on it. It's important to have that. And so when you understand what it is that you're buying and why you're buying it and if it's going to work for you or not, I think that you need to read up on it. I think you need to understand it. I think that, you need to build a little bit of a knowledge and talk to a sophisticated real estate agent that's going to be able to sit down and help you understand whether or not it is a good decision.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, we don't try to give people our opinions too much because it doesn't matter unless they ask for it. But I do think that buying a home is an investment. If it's, within your means, you buy a bigger home, then that chunk outside of what you mean is, or what you need is going to be a liability. It's expenses you don't need to have. But I do think the knowledge of buying a home is huge. And I feel like that's what helps more equity and more things that parents leave for kids is equities in homes. I feel like that's some of the most investments that most people make is purchasing a home.
I agree. And I think I don't think it's our opinion that they're seeking. I think it's more of just the facts, right? It's more of just what's going on in this market, what's going on here, what are you seeing? And then from what you're seeing, obviously nobody knows the future. Everything can change, but what do you project?
Right.
And I think those are the things that they should be coming to an agent for versus should I buy or not? Really that's up to them to decide, but I think they have they'll make a much better decision if they have more of the facts around it.
Right.
And so I think just knowing those numbers and knowing what the market's doing and the trend lines and things like that can help that decision a ton. Even if they're not into, a lot of people don't like numbers, they don't like stats, they don't like those things. But I think I don't think most people, like you said, aren't as concerned about our opinion.
Right.
It's more of, okay, what can I bring to the table just to help give you more information so you can make the best decision for you and your family at that point.
And I would say not just validation.
True.
So yeah. Jason is I want to buy this $2.5 million home. I love it. Like, it's so awesome. Like, I'm going to have, 14 stallions out there. Like, what do you think? And you're going to be like, man, I love it. I think you should do it. As you think I should do it? I'm not, it's pretty awesome. You're going to love it, right? Now, that's getting sold, and that's just getting validation.
Yeah.
Versus, it's up to you. Do you need it? Morgan, you've never owned one stallion, let alone do you need 14. Like, you just help them walk it through. And that's the knowledge. Like, get an agent that has knowledge on it that's not going to just get you into something that you don't need to be buying.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's something to be said for being in the house you really want, especially if they plan to be there long term.
Right.
But I ask a lot of people the question, is this your forever home? Rarely do people say it is. Sometimes people say, oh, yes, we want to stay here forever. But I'd say most of the time, especially now, I think back maybe in the 70s and 80s, you found that a lot more, where they were just happy and content. I think people are less content now. And that's not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I think that it's just more common now for people to be rarely in that forever home. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, a lot of first-time home buyers, even second home buyers, they want to be in that forever home right now.
Right.
Whereas that doesn't always happen. I mean, sometimes it's a building block and you have to go 2 or 3 homes before you get into that home that you're like, okay, this is the one. It suits us, it fits us. It's not too big, not too small, and we can stay here for a long time.
And so on that, don't overextend.
Yeah.
If it's not going to be your forever home.
Yep. Even if it is, right? I mean, even if it is your forever home, you don't want to overextend because you want to just build that equity and then get into it when you can and when you're comfortable getting into it. And so, yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think there's people, it's human nature, I think, to want the next best thing. So I think it seems like no matter what price point people are in, if they're, let's say the comfortable price point for them would be $500,000. They really want the amenities and everything that comes with a $600,000 or $700,000 house.
Right.
If you're in the 200, you want the 300. If you're at $1.5 million, you want the 2 million. You know, I think that's just human nature to want everything in that next level in your price point. It doesn't always it doesn't happen, but I think that's human nature to want to just overextend just a little bit. I think that's why we see so many, like we were talking about the other day, back in the day, you rarely saw brand new cars, right?
Never.
I mean, people drove their cars for a long time, but now most people don't.
When we were in high school, the thing to do when you go to prom was be able to drive your parents' nicest vehicle. Right?
Yeah.
And it was awesome to be able to drive your parents' nicest vehicle. And there wasn't a bunch. And now, everybody has a nice one, which is great, and each their own. But I also think that people don't understand that. And that's that knowledge. They don't understand that, we all want the now. We all want the nice now. And there is quite a bit of discipline and understanding of you're going to have time later. Like, you don't have to have it now. And so.
Yeah, that's hard. It's like the Stanford marshmallow study I think we mentioned before on the podcast. But, yeah, it's just the kids who are willing to wait for something, they seem to be more successful in life. And it was a very small, I can't remember the percentage, but it was a pretty small percentage of the kids that were willing to wait for that second marshmallow versus the kids who just ate the first one.
Right.
It's called a good, right? And so, but I think more and more we're getting into that mindset. But I don't know, I think because it was such a small percentage, how do we train ourselves to wait? How do we train ourselves to be patient for those things? How do we train ourselves to do the daily to get those things?
I suck at that. I think most people do. I got a lot of small marshmallows. My dad was, and I think about it a lot, but he would always just tell me it's always going to be there. There's always going to be good deals. Yeah. I'd see a car, or I would see, sell on shoes or whatever it may be, and he'd be like, They use limited edition, they use sales, they use all of these things for the scarcity mindset that you gotta go now. Yeah. And he's like, it's always going to be there. And then now with the internet, we can always find it, right? Yep. But we're this microwave community that we just always want the now. We want everything done in a minute to 2 minutes to 3 minutes instead of the slow cooker or the oven pan. And so it's a hard thing to break out of, but just knowing the discipline of giving up what I kind of want now for something that I'll really want later.
Yeah.
Everything you really want is really in the end, and we can have everything we really want if we're disciplined to work really hard now, or we're disciplined to say no to, big purchases, or we're disciplined to, to do those things. And we, it's kind of down a rabbit hole, but I'm a firm believer if I had to do it all over, and it's going to be harder and harder and harder as trends and influences, pop up. But if you're in your 20s, my advice would be is just work hard. Work hard, save your money, invest. You don't get a new car until you're 30. Just drive a car that's going to get you going. You don't need a new car. No one cares.
Would you have to, like the Dave Ramsey model, just buy something with cash and then
buy something with cash,
not
buy
have a payment?
something. Yeah, buy something that's just okay.
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't need to be anything fancy. Don't show off. And then when you're 30, up and buy a house, but buy a house that, you know, that works. That's just a minimum house, you know, a nice community, a good place. And then when you're 30, you're going to have raises and you're going to have different things, but you're going to be out of debt and you're going to be investing all that money that you had when you're in your 20s, and you're going to be hustling and you're going to be pushing it. 30, upgrade your lifestyle just a little bit more.
Yeah, we had one guest on that said upgrade it, 40% or something like that,
Yeah.
50%. So if you get whatever that raise was, you only take half of that to upgrade your life, and the rest of it you invest more.
Yeah, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then get rid of it. And by the time you're 40, if you want a newer vehicle, go get one that's like a couple years old. And so you're 40, you're still young, you know, and you will have more in investments and you will have more going on in your life than most 50, 60, 70, 80-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then just keep that going and then upgrade just a little bit. And then when you're 50, you're done.
Yeah.
And it's all the stuff that we look back on, but I'm a firm believer of that. I mean, I drove an '01 pickup truck until I was like 28 and 29. And I loved not having a payment, and I just invested all of it.
Yeah.
And then I, got into a nicer car. And then I went really willy-nilly and bought like a few other stupid cars but after a while, you don't even need them. And after a while, it's just more headache. And after a while, it's more confusion,
Yeah.
more chaos. And the less chaos and the more simplified you can be, I mean, that's the way to happiness, I feel like. Like in Costa Rica, what I love about Costa Rica is everyone's down to earth. And when I mean that they're down to earth, they're simplified.
Yeah.
And
They're not showing off a nice car.
Yeah, people
don't
go
care.
down and they're like, man, I just, how do they do it in these houses and this and that? And I'm like, they're happy. They're not stressed. They're not going to work for all of this stuff that they don't need. And they just go to work for what they have, spend time with their family, enjoy life. And hopefully, they're investing or something is there. But it's like, it's the difference between us as American dream is just consumerism to the 100th power to somebody who's just like, I'm just happy to be healthy, happy. And,
When I was growing up, I kind of wanted all of the new bright, shiny things, right? And so I always worked because I was lucky to grow up with awesome parents, but they didn't make a ton. And so we couldn't, my mom would give me a little budget of $50 or something like that. Okay, here's your budget for school. You can go to wherever, Kmart when it was still around, right? And buy like a couple pair of jeans and a couple shirts for that, or I'll just give you the $50 and you can go buy what you want. I of course wanted the nicer stuff. And my dad would always say, he says, instead of going out and running and buying it right now, he says, wait 6 months. If you still want it in 6 months, then yeah, and you have the money and you're okay to do it, then buy it. But don't buy it right now. And 90% of the time, I didn't want it 6 months later,
Right.
And so now it might be different as you get older. That extension, I mean, that was in like junior high and high school, right? So now it might be a longer term. Maybe, hey, you really want that item, wait 18 months. And if you still really want it and you can do it, then maybe it's worth looking at a little bit closer. But if it's not, then move on. And I think that was pretty good advice because it got me from buying a lot of those little things. 6 months was probably good when I was in high school because usually in November it was new skis that I wanted or something like that. And then by June I didn't really want them again. and then so that was a probably good time frame for me then. I didn't want the new coat or whatever in the middle of summer. But it's true, though. I mean, you wait 6 months, and do you really want it? You probably didn't even want it to start with. It's just that two other people had it, and you thought they looked cool. And so why you're just keeping up with everybody else at that point?
When I moved out, I had a few garbage bags of clothes and shoes and stuff. And I would throw them over my shoulders, and I walk up the stairs, and I'm walking them out to my truck. And I remember my dad being like, imagine that weight that you're packing out there in these, black garbage bags. What if that was money and you're loading it in the back of your truck? And I was like, stupid.
What are you talking about? It's not money.
But then after a while, I think about it all the time. And so we just did a deal on our house, and we just, diluted and got rid of so much crap. And I think, man, what if this was money that we were taking to the dump or we're taking to the donation, And I think about that a lot. And then the Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, he had this deal that he's like, go in your closet, and he's like, you only wear 10 for 15% of what it is. And he's like, that other 85%, 90%, you should have invested into whatever it is. And that also sticks with me, that I'm like, man, are these, these shoes or these jeans or this shirt or this jacket, is it going to get me closer to where I want to go? Or is it going to go, it's just going to take me longer?
Yeah.
And then Dustin Runyon, he, and I'm going to butcher this, but he says, I deserve is the worst phrase that we could ever have, or that we can ever tell ourselves. I deserve this, or I think I deserve that, or I want this, or, and so I've done well, so I deserve this. And he's like, nothing's going to keep you more mediocre than keeping that mindset of I deserve.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of opposite of doing the good daily grind with the without worrying about the outcome, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we kind of went off the rabbit trail on real estate. We kind of went down there and the rabbit hole. Jason, what in your opinion, to buy or sell? Is this a good time to buy or sell? Is this a bad time to buy or sell? Should we wait? Should we wait to see what happens with in a year from now? Like, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, depending on obviously where you're at, but if you're contemplating it and you're needing that change, I think now is the time to do it. I think even investing, right? I mean, I think it's always now is the best time, because no one says, oh, I'm so glad I didn't buy right then. I mean, rarely does that happen. Most of the time it's, I wish I had bought back then when I was thinking about it. And so I do think right now is a good time, because we have been pretty flat, dropped just a little bit and then flat for the last few years. I think you're in a pretty good spot. I mean, right now there's really no indication of home prices dropping more.
Right.
I think most indicators are showing that an increase over the next couple of years. And so I think now, if you want to get into the best price, now is probably the time to jump in this year.
And back to my note of holding onto those properties that I invested in back then, I've made more money in that than I have by investing from then till now.
Yeah.
Because they've increased. They've done really well. They've been a huge blessing in my life. And I think that don't give yourself excuses to not do it. You have to just do it, and you're not going to lose. Just hold on to it long enough, and you can sell it if you hate it. But you will not lose in real estate if you hold on to your property long enough.
Yeah.
And so, I would put a plug in for you is that we practice what we preach. I mean, I'm still buying properties and doing things. You've encouraged your son to buy a home in the last 30 days. Like, it's not like we're saying this and then not doing it. Like, oh, this is a good idea. Like, it's important that we do it and that we listen to what's going on. Yeah. It's not going to get any better or any easier. And if it does get better, it gets better for us that just bought.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, even, yeah, exactly. And I think people always say, well, how can kids even afford it now? Right. They can. They've just got to forego some of those some of those luxuries, some of those other things,
Yeah.
you know? And so if they're willing to forego some of those, they absolutely can get into a house. And I love that chart that NAR always puts out as far as they take basically a poll. It's just a look across the country and showing renters versus owners and their net worth.
Yeah.
And it's crazy the difference. Net worth of renters, I think last time it was under $10,000.
Yeah.
And the net worth of homeowners was over $400,000 on average across the country. And so just that alone should incentivize you to buy as soon as you can, as soon as you possibly can. So you can start building that equity and being a part of that growth mindset.
So you came from the old school age, and I came from the newer old school age. But you came from, and I did too. So that means you really did. That when you drive by a McDonald's, it's the funny saying like, "Hey, can we stop there?" And it's like, "We have food at home."
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I believe that the parents now don't understand that they're not the "we have food at home" parents. That they're like, "Yeah, let's swing in there, or let's swing in there. This is convenient. Let's do this." And I've heard things that's like, our parents, or our grandparents made it on very little because they didn't buy $8, coffees. They didn't buy $8 mixed sodas. They didn't do these things that really, we think back to the beginning, these micro decisions that stack up to something huge. They did a lot of the things right.
They didn't spend 25 to 30% of their monthly income on car payments.
Correct. And so I do believe that we have to get better at it. Me, most, because there's a lot of things I think of my kids and I'm like, I am teaching them some bad habits, right? Like they're not going to understand this. And so I do believe that too, that your kids, if you teach them right and you help them, it's always going to be harder, right? Home ownership isn't easy. It's not a cakewalk, Yeah. But
you put money into your home, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not just that initial investment. There is money going into the home for maintenance and updates and things like that over the years. And that's going to happen, of course, but that's when you can get the most equity out of your home at the end.
So the discipline of giving up what you want now for something that you really want later.
Yeah.
A big purchase, a big house, or not a big house, but a nicer home.
Yeah.
And then to get a bigger house, you have to get a smaller house and upgrade to the bigger house. And so it's important that, us as parents, that we're teaching some of these things of, they're not buying a car. It's not a liability. But if they're, smashing Subway for lunch at $16 a day every single day, it's expenses. Yeah. They've got to eliminate expenses, which are pretty big liabilities.
Yeah, I agree. I think I could learn a little bit from my youngest son, Maverick, on that because he didn't really care about clothes and that. It's kind of funny. I think it's become a little bit more of a trend the last 4 or 5 years, but even 10 years ago, he'd rather just, let's go pick something out at Goodwill or whatever and wear it. And he just wore it all the time. And his shoes were always worn out. We'd have to beg him to buy new shoes because they looked so ratty and they were falling apart. And he just didn't care. And I was like, I need to be more like that. I need to be more, on that trend of, hey, it's okay. It works. It's fine. Why buy something new?
Right.
Just because the trends changed a little bit. Trends are changing faster and faster, I feel like. Maybe that's just my perception. Maybe it's just because I'm old and time's going faster.
Right.
But I feel like, trends back when I was growing up, it would stay a trend for a while.
Right.
Like the 80s was pretty much the same thing all throughout, right? And then the 90s was very similar throughout. But I feel like now it's every couple of years that it's changing. And I think that's partially clothing industry, things like that, to try to get you to buy more stuff. And people do.
The marketing is incredible.
Yeah, I think there was a stat. I don't even remember the stat. I just remember 20, 30 years ago, people would buy something like 5 to 6 items of clothing a year to update. And, because things would last 5 to 10 years, right? Now people are buying average like 75 to 80 items of clothing a year.
At least. And there's a documentary out about clothes that are just disposable clothes. You buy clothes off these cheap websites, and it's a shirt for men that's $8, and it's not made to last. It's just made to, you wear it, and then you're gonna chuck it in, you know what I mean, a month or two.
Yeah.
And it's actually a pretty interesting thing. And so when you talked about clothes and things like that, I think that's part of the discipline that successful people have, is that they can navigate that, pretty well. And so the most successful person that I knew was my dad, and he led by example. And that's sometimes, I guess, I worry about with my kids, is sometimes I don't know if I'm the best example. But he, you've heard this story, and I think I told it on this once, but man, it's worth going again. So, he always wore just like weird old clothes. And I would say, Dad,
weird. They're just jeans, right? I mean,
and I would say, Dad, let's switch it up a little bit, And he's like, yeah, I mean, whatever. And so, he did well. So we were like, let's get you so you dress like you're doing well. And so I tried to help him out. It never really went anywhere. And anyway, he never bought shoes. He wore cowboy boots, and he wore like just simple kind of shoes, And so he'd call me, we've heard of hand-me-downs, and he'd call them hand-me-ups. And so I'd bring him over like 5 or 6 pairs of sneakers that I wouldn't wear. And one day we were outside, and he always would wear these white shoes, and they were kind of dirty, and we were outside, and I was like, hey, you need some new shoes? And he's like, no. He's like, I'm fine. Like, do you have something you want to get rid of? And I said, Dad, you're wearing, I gave him some Jordan 1s, and at the time they were Reebok Allen Iversons, and he was wearing one of each. And I said, you're wearing 2 different shoes.
And he didn't even notice.
He's like, oh man, that's embarrassing. And he didn't notice. And to be honest, I don't think anybody noticed, and anybody cared. And it didn't change anything. He just laughed about it. And so I went and, got him some new shoes. Couldn't have him doing that. But I think that's important, is just the discipline. And we just got to learn the discipline of money, of having money. Because to make money is a skill. And I love that. To keep money is a discipline. And that's the Starbucks, and that's what we're providing for our kids in their, to help them with their discipline. Yeah. And I think that's a huge discipline. And then I think it is a knowledge to invest in real estate. And so I know that we're out of time for this one, and we can pick it up again another time. But anyway, thank you everybody for listening. And please subscribe and share with your friends. And we really appreciate all the love and support that we get from these. So thank you.